Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Tuesday, August 24th, 2021, and today we're going to be talking about the Arizona election audit. Now, looking like it's going to be continuing beyond the requested 2 months, now 4 months that have been pushed out with this audit from this group called the Cyber Ninjas. Now, the reason why this is being pushed out is because 3 out of the 5 members of the election review team have contracted COVID-19. Now, this is obviously something that was preventable, first of all, through vaccination efforts and a number of other things, but that is besides the point. The point being that COVID-19 seems to be delaying the Arizona election review, and it continues to push this on nearly a year after the election actually occurred. Now, these contractors were hired to conduct a review of Maricopa County's 2020 election results, and the things that they were looking for were largely pushed by conspiracy theories from members of the right wing in the Arizona State Senate. For instance, this contracting company is looking for things such as bamboo fibers on the ballots to see if the ballots were shipped in from China, as some conspiracy theories might suggest. In addition, they are looking under it with UV lights to see if there were any types of messing up with the ballots, seeing if anything was intentionally changed by the poll workers. Whatever it might be, all around, this, simply put, is just another continuation of the baseless claims of election fraud across the state of Arizona. And it puts the GOP in a very unfortunate position, because this group of contractors, these group of people together that are looking at this, these Arizona ballots, are pretty much just diving in to these conspiracy theories and giving them another reason to surface up and come across the United States. They have been warned, the Republican Party in Arizona has already been warned, that this is going to push up the Democratic Party. This article written promptly after the election, around 3 weeks after, 2 weeks after, seeing that Arizona Democrats see a blue trend, whereas Republicans see a blip, thinking that this is nothing more than just a minor setback for the GOP. But as they continue to push these claims of election fraud and continue the audit that was quite literally pushed up by the Republican-controlled state Senate, it questions the legitimacy of the election, but not in a good way for the GOP, because the majority of Americans already view the election as legitimate. The majority of Arizona voters already view the election as legitimate, and an audit would have made sense maybe a month or two after the election. But today we stand in August 24th, 2021, nearly a year after the election. It's fascinating that we are still looking at these ballots, and the fact is, this election review team is being delayed because of COVID-19. I think that is also something that is very fitting for the situation that we are looking at. And like I had said, this is a warning sign for the GOP that this is something that should not be propped up. The first warning sign should have been the 2016 presidential election. I know what you might be thinking. Why 2016? Donald Trump won the election. He won Arizona. What about it? Right? Well, first of all, Mitt Romney won Arizona by 9 points. In fact, Mitt Romney won Arizona by a larger margin than John McCain did. So Arizona, Donald Trump won by 3.5%. Hillary Clinton, as a lackluster candidate in many regards, was actually able to do well and better than Joe Biden amongst minority voters. But that actually helped her a lot. That actually helped her a lot in the state of Arizona. And you can see here that the margin was narrowed down to 3.5%. Now, I personally think this should have been warning sign number 1 for the GOP, because this was an indicator that they were going to lose here sometime in the future. You don't go from a 9-point margin down to 3.5 for fun. Things start to happen, and things are starting to change in Arizona at that point. Maricopa County might have gone to Donald Trump, but it certainly did not in 2020. Fast forward to 2018, you take a look at this Senate election. Okay, this might have been a blip by the GOP standard. Kyrsten Sinema was able to defeat Martha McSally, 2 representatives facing off for an even higher position in the United States Senate. Kyrsten Sinema wins by 2.4%. Coincidentally, the same margin that Mark Kelly wins by in 2020. But at this point in time, maybe the Republican Party could have looked at this and said, it's a blip. But then you look over at the House elections. In 2018, Democrats officially became the majority of the House delegation from the state of Arizona. Another thing that should have told them they were not in for a good ride in 2020. Then you take a look at 2020. The Democratic Party wins the Senate election in Arizona by 2.4% and then wins it on the presidential level. So from 2016, the state of Arizona went from having majority Republican delegation to having 2 Republican senators and a consistent Republican victory dating all the way back to 1996, the last time a Democrat won in Arizona. So for the entirety of the 21st century, Democrats had not cracked into Arizona and won. And then in just 2 years, it happened back to back to back to back. Arizona went to the Democratic Party and completely shifted towards the left. And instead of analyzing what went wrong in Arizona, how they lost a Senate election in 2018, how they lost a House seat in 2018, how in 2020 they won the popular vote across the state, yet lost districts that they drew themselves, 5 Democrats, 4 Republicans. They won the popular vote in the House elections. I want to remind you about that. But then you take a look at the Senate elections. Mark Kelly won. Joe Biden won. Where you're looking at across the state of Arizona, what they should have done is analyze, step back, and change their rhetoric. Instead, they doubled down on the state of Arizona. Instead of looking at these warning signs, as could have been predicted by these 3 writers in the Wall Street Journal, instead of that, they went full on in for the election audit. And the election audit has never been popular. This was an article written back in May of 2021. I mean, I can't even believe that they were still counting ballots in May of 2021. The election was a long time ago. 55% of state voters opposed the state Senate audit because it was a Republican-led one. This was something that seemed very clearly done by and for the Republican Party and wasn't going to find anything. 41% support it. That is a 14-point deficit. Only 77% of Republicans backed the effort. 90% opposed it. It says that 44.5% of voters in Arizona would be less likely to vote for a candidate who backed the recount versus 33% who said they would be more likely. You are seeing deficits here that are not good for the GOP. They completely avoided what went wrong in 2020 and tried to blame it on election fraud. Politico also wrote an article about this, saying that the Arizona ballot audit showed signs of backfiring on the GOP. This was a month later, June of 2021. And they pretty much just talk about additional polls that show that half of Arizona voters oppose the recount effort. Joe Biden didn't even win half of Arizona voters, which means that there are voters out here who voted for Donald Trump that oppose the GOP recount. And it says here that this GOP operative, Sean Noble, says it's a failure. It's a joke. The election is long over. It's time to look forward. And that is the rhetoric that can help Arizona Republicans win. But unfortunately for them, they are still caught up in this and they are delaying it additionally. I mean, this election review is something that was not supposed to go on. I remember when I was graduating high school that there were reports that the high school graduations were taking place in the time in which this exact convention center, where in Phoenix, Arizona, there was going to be this major congregation of different high schools with their graduations, whatever it might be. So it was postponing the audits, which were actually supposed to complete before the high school graduations. Months later, they still have yet to complete, and they are being pushed out additionally. The reason why this is something that is so important is because the voters in Arizona disliked it in May heavily. I can't even imagine how they feel about the same election audit occurring today. I can't even imagine how you would feel as a voter that had long voted with the GOP, but then decided to vote for Joe Biden and Mark Kelly in the 2020 election, and yet you are being told in Maricopa County, the county with the highest percentage of the state's population, that your vote was illegitimate, that they do not believe that Joe Biden fairly won the election. As someone who might have voted for the GOP in the past but voted for Joe Biden in the 2020 election, you start to question, should I ever back that party again? If the party you had stood for a long period of time is telling you that this election was illegitimate, that there were no swing voters, that Donald Trump in fact expanded off where he was in 2016, you begin to question the legitimacy of that party specifically. And that's why this is so detrimental for the Arizona GOP. Because when you take a look at what's upcoming, in the upcoming Senate elections and the also the governor elections, let's see here if we can go here. So let's go to 2018. Let's head over to Arizona. because Arizona in 2022 is going to be competitive. Doug Ducey in 2018 had a very large result, won by 14 points across the state, but now he's out. He can't run for re-election, and also Donald Trump said himself that if Doug Ducey decides to run for Senate, and for a long period of time, another reason why the Arizona GOP is screwing themselves over in this point is because Doug Ducey, as a popular governor, could have ran for Senate and won and defeated Mark Kelly. I would not have doubted it for a second that would have been possible. Maybe it wouldn't have been the favorite, but it might have been, it would be very possible, to say the least. Yet Donald Trump came out and said to his operatives that if Doug Ducey was to run for United States Senate, he could consider voting and supporting a Democrat in that race. In that case, it would be Mark Kelly, someone he actively campaigned against in the 2020 election. Point being that Donald Trump hates Doug Ducey, never wants to see him in a position of power again because Doug Ducey refused to overturn the 2020 election results in favor of Donald Trump. He stood his ground. The Republican legislature, in some regard, did stand their ground as well and did not invalidate the votes of those 11 electors from Arizona. But now in this governor election, regardless of how Doug Ducey is popular or not, he's out, which means that there are a number of people who want to enter into this open race and win. Now, many people expect the Arizona State Treasurer, Kimberly Yee, to win this nomination. On the Democratic side, Katie Hobbs is also someone who is expected to win. She is the Arizona Secretary of State. There is a lot of speculation about the competitive nature of this state, but it could go really either way. Democrats could flip this governorship in 2022 because of cases such as this this audit effort that is being done by the Arizona State Senate. In addition, you have to take a look at the Senate elections. Right now, I've rated Arizona as lean for the Democratic Party, and it honestly makes a lot of sense. Mark Kelly is a popular senator. He may not necessarily be as popular amongst Republicans as Kyrsten Sinema, but holds a popularity rating across the state that's around plus double digits. And if you take a look at the polling data in this race, let's go ahead and see if I can show you the Arizona polling data. Let's go ahead and head over to the special election year. You'll take a look and see Mark Kelly ahead, in some cases, by double digits. You can see here that amongst every single Republican competitor, that Mark Kelly defeats them. Right now, the two that I've announced, Michael McGuire, Mark Kelly defeats by 9 points. Mark Brnovich, he defeats by 10 points. Cook Political Report and Sabato's Crystal Ball agree that this race is lean for the Democratic Party. So the polls are telling us so far that Mark Kelly is in a good position. They told us he was in a good position for 2020, and he ended up winning. Now, Arizona is a little tricky. Sometimes they're right with polls, sometimes they're wrong. In 2018, they said the Republicans would win the Senate election. Kyrsten Sinema ended up winning that Senate election. But all in all, looking around the state of Arizona, it is very clear that the voters here do not support this election audit. And it's something that the GOP should have picked up on from 2016 through 2020, that they were losing support. And rather than reflect and move on and move forward, as being suggested here by Sean Noble, accurately saying that it is time for the GOP to move on beyond the 2020 election. Because you can see here that they clearly do not want to, that they want to continue with this election audit. Proponents say it will restore voters' confidence. Well, that's not what they've been saying so far. It is very clear that this is an unpopular effort. It is something that the Arizona State Senate needs to walk back upon if they want to win again in 2022. And by that, I mean the Republican delegation. By that, I mean the Republican majority in 2022 for the state of Arizona, because this will only prove to be more detrimental considering that the state's population is growing, considering that the state in 2024, we can actually take a look here. So what we see here is that looking ahead to the presidential election, looking at the Senate elections, looking at the state of Arizona in its entirety, it's growing in population. It will hold a large electoral weight in 2024. Again, it will be one of those hotly contested swing states, and the GOP can simply not afford to lose any voters from the 2020 election because they didn't have that many to begin with relative to where they were just 8 years ago. You can see the shift over time. I actually want you to see it visualized from the beginning of the 21st century, from what was Bush plus 6 to Bush plus 11 to McCain plus 9 to Romney plus 9, down to Trump plus 4, down to Biden plus 0.3. All around, all eyes will be on Arizona in 2022 in that Senate election, in the governor election, in the House elections, and additionally on the presidential level in 2024. I would advise the GOP at this point the same thing that Sean Noble is saying, that it is entirely time to move on. Unless they want a rerun of 2020, of 2018, and maybe in their best case, they would want a redo of 2016. But they certainly don't want 2020. They definitely don't want 2018. But it is something that might be inevitable if they continue pushing down this rhetoric that the 2020 election was rigged, because that is nothing that will be beneficial in a swing state that just flipped for the first time in decades, when you are trying to convince independents and these Democrats to come back on your side when you clearly have pushed them away and invalidated many of their votes. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2022 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.